just received this Gillette Super Speed flare tip in the mail from Alex, and his story was that this was his girlfriend's father's razor. It's an A3, which means it was made in 1955 in the third quarter. So July, August, or September of 1955, and would have been bought shortly after that. This is in pretty typical, been laying around for 70 years, not being used condition. It's got a lot of oxidation, a lot of pitting. The green is where the plating had failed and the brass is corroding through. The rust is because at some point the razor blades were left in it and they rust, and then that seeps down. The razor itself does not rust, it corrodes. That's witnessed by the green. It's got pitting on the doors, pretty good. Then by pitting I mean those little flea specks. Some people call them flea specks, I call it pitting. That'll be a little hole in the plating, but that hole will be much bigger underneath the plating. Usually it's eating out underneath there. This particular one will come apart. It has the screw in the end. So we're gonna try to work a miracle on this family heirloom here. Alright, we'll start the process. These particular ones with the screw in the end take a special screwdriver, and the to loosen you go to the right. It's a reverse thread. That's what that looks like. So that holds the center in, but if you notice, when you open it, it won't come out because it's got these little, what we call ears, and they need to be flattened out. Now the only thing holding it together when it goes back together will be that screw. I haven't found a good way to reflare these that doesn't end up bending the mechanism or anything like that. So now that will come apart. So there's the insides. You see they're just coated pretty good with stuff. We got more brassing that has led to corrosion, and more of the rust from the razor blades in there. Now if you notice here, the center crimp here, this on the handle, has come loose, so I have a special tool for that I use. So you gently work that down in, so now that's where that needs to be. Alright, we're going to do about an hour in ultrasonic cleaner with buffing compound remover from Sonicor. It does a good job breaking through some of the gunk over the years, so we're going to do that now. This is the ultrasonic cleaner with the Sonicor in it. You see how that's starting after about a half an hour. starting to really get in there, and it's totally different. You can start to see the brass coming through there that was hidden by the gunk. Alright, I just got these out of the ultrasonic cleaner. So you can see all the brass, that's what was causing the green. The rust stains went away. The nickel on the handle is really good, and you can see where it's coming off in between there, the flutes of the flare, and you can see all the little flea bites and everything there. On the doors, same thing on the pitting there. Underneath looks really good, and this turned out really good. So, all right, this is my polishing and stripping station. I don't have as elaborate a one down here in Arizona as I do up in Wyoming, but it does the same thing. So I just worked on the underneath of this so as not to harm the lettering or anything. I've got a couple different things. I use these 3M abrasive wheels, and I do a real light grinding when I get in situations like that, and use the heavier one if it's thicker, but usually the light one will take off any of the nickel in places. So now I do a brush polish of everything to see where we're at before I start anything else. All doors for the butterfly doors come off of the T-bar, and they go onto my special polishing T-bar that I made, so that I have a good grip on it when I'm doing my polishing and resurfacing with that. Alright, that's the end of the first step of the wire brush polish. And normally on a tune-up, that's about as far as that would go. On a tune-up that had the brass showing, I would recommend plating over that. But the tune-up, the doors would turn out like that. Everything else would be about the same, and then everything would be adjusted, repaired, and put back together. So now what we'll do is we're going to resurface the end caps to a mirror finish, and the outside of the doors to a mirror finish, and probably the top here because there was a lot of pitting there. Alright, I'm done with the resurfacing phase. So that took on all the pitting there and made for a surface that can be mirror polished. Also on the end caps and on that upper surface of the guard. The underneath surface of the guard I got with the wheels, and that turned out pretty good. The rest of the nickel is in really good shape, and contrary to what other people say, I've done thousands of these. If the nickel is adhered good and in good shape, you can plate over that. You can do more damage taking it off, both chemically and mechanically, than it's worth. So if it can be left on, I leave it on, because it's just not hurting anything. It's been there for anywhere from 70 to 120 years for most Gillettes, or 70 to 100 years. So it must have been doing something right. Alright, so I got it done polished. Got the edge there. This nut, the top, bottom, Kikyo, and the T-bar, and end caps. So tomorrow, we do our plating every other day, so tomorrow we'll get that all plated up and see how it turned out. Alright, we're going to do the hydrogen bubbles carry off any impurities on the surface of the item. It needs to be super clean or it won't stick. If you get discoloration in the plating, probably because you're not that clean. Alright, after a few minutes of that, what we're looking for is the water break test. If the item isn't super clean, the water will bead up and run off just like a wax on a newly waxed car, and you don't want that. So the sign that you've got it clean is that it doesn't do that. Then it will go into the acid dip for just a little bit. This gets all the chemicals off from the Electroplating, etches the surface so that it'll take the plating, and then we're going to go into the nickel. Alright, our time's up on the nickel. And this will be the final product right here. All the different plating chemicals have different temperatures they run at and different voltages. You get the voltage too high on some metals and it'll get like a burnt, cloudy look to it. You get it too low and they just won't go on at all. So final step is just neutralizing all the acids that were in the nickel with the acid dip and a final rinse. Okay, my final thing after I take it out of the liquid is I hit it with 150 pounds of air. I've had other replated razors that I've had sent in to me that were, you know, had a flaw in them or anything. First thing I do is hit them with that 150 pounds, and I've seen the plating peel off, so I don't want that. So I do that to all my own before they leave my shop. That helps dry it without scratching the surface with, you know, having something contaminated on the surface of that. And make sure that the plating has taken. So what we're left with is just a beautiful super speed razor A3 from 1955. And it's hard to believe that that is the one that we started out with, but it is. There's that bottom. Perfectly smooth head with no flaws. No flaws on the doors whatsoever. You don't see any of that original pitting at all. No flaws or pitting on the end caps or on the sides of the blade guards. Those are the things that are guaranteed on every razor, that those will be in that condition. The rest of the razor depends on what it was. This bottom was pretty bad, and it came out pretty good with the resurfacing and everything. Last step is always mechanical adjustments. Blade gap is set. Blade gap isn't just looking at it and seeing that, you know, it's the same on both sides. There's measurements that you use with a feeler gauge to have them set correctly based on measurements of new razors. So anyway, that is my video for Alex.